increasing profits, right? I mean, there's so many components that come to this, and I mean, I do a teeny bit of consulting, not to the level that you do, but when I see this, I mean, there's definitely some commonalities, but there's a lot of things that come into this. I heard a statistic the other day, though, and I can't remember the exact stat, but it was, it's the majority of business owners, right? The majority of business owners are solo entrepreneurs and net like $40,000 a year. Like that's the vast majority of businesses out there, right? Which is sad to go out there and see, right? They pigeonhole themselves in having a job and never going out there and making the income they want to make. And, with you working with so many clients and helping them, of course, increase those profits and increase the revenue that they're bringing in, like what are some of the biggest commonalities that, that most people, whether it's a mistake or whatever, that just seems to have the biggest impact when they make these shifts?
Yeah. So I think I don't know if it's a mistake, but a myth or what have you is, most of the people I run into, number one, they don't have what I have called 8 years of controller experience. Yeah. And looking at books and looking at numbers and understanding a balance sheet and an income statement. And so I know that. But I think it's imperative that business owners get it, that you're going to have to learn it, even if at a very minimal, stage. And so I think what happens is they get into business and they're not willing to look at the numbers. They're not even willing to go, it's zero and I suck at sales, or they're not willing to look at, I made $1 million, but I spent 800,000 of it, or 900 or $1 million, and have nothing to show for it, right? If you don't look at the numbers, track your numbers, and be real about that, then you can't manage a business. You're still running a hobby that's costing you. I'm not saying that you have to be profitable from the get-go. I didn't start out profitable. There were times that I wrote off and, wrote everything off and I had a loss, and that's okay. But at some point you have to, if you aren't tracking it, you're never going to know if it's changing or growing or getting better. And so a lot of people, I think come into business and go, oh, well, I can just, put it in a bank account and then I can just spend it, and there's no tracking and there's no clarity about how to position or project and I do my best to simplify that. I do my best to, I've got tools and spreadsheets that are real simple and they're formulated already. And it's kind of like, just plug the numbers in and, and see what's possible. And then we'll back into how you're going to get there. And one of the tools I use is called Money Map, for revenue success. And it's just a spreadsheet that, you plug in the variables, and I think the other thing is, before they even try to make money, is they don't know what they're really selling. That's a huge piece of the problem. And so we got to know what we're selling and how much we're currently going to charge for it. And I know a lot of that's a challenge for people because they don't know what to charge. And so here's the item, here's the unit price, and here's the quantity sold equals the revenue. It's that simple. It's A, times B equals C. And so if you aren't projecting or expecting the number you want, right, and the revenue, if you want to make 100,000, but you're selling things for $10 and you don't sell enough, and you don't have enough units sold, you're not going to hit $100,000 necessarily if you don't do the right marketing, right? So it's all about awareness. It's all about knowing what you're trying to accomplish, at the same time looking at it on a consistent basis. I love when people get to the end of the year and go, well, time to do my books. Yeah. It's like tax time, right? I got it. I've been there, a long time ago. And it's just a disservice to you, your business, your growth, it's like you're just going to take a longer time to figure things out if you're not paying attention or taking a look at it. The other thing, so I get kind of a basic understanding for people around their numbers. So, and of course, there's a lot of resistance. I deal with a lot of people that don't want to look, and they're like, well, it's zero. I don't want to look at it. Well, hold on a minute. If that's the case, then we got to deal with the emotions behind it. Because at this point,
we got to get the brave to kick in.
We got to get the brave, right? Exactly. We got to deal with that resistance, because if that's the case, it's going to show up elsewhere. And so that's part of my process, is to kind of break down. It's not just about the data, which is necessary, but it's also looking at how do you react to the data. And the more you look at it, by the way, guys watching, is you will become desensitized, right? You'll just look at it as data. But if you're never looking, you'll be like judging yourself. And, it's like, oh, I did nothing this month, or I only made 3 sales calls when I should be making 50. I mean, like whatever it is, it's so self-sabotaging to do it that way. So I intentionally have my clients look at numbers, and they sometimes hate me, I'm sure. but the whole exercise is to desensitize and to also break down whatever the resistance are, because I got to overcome that with you as well. And we got to look at it, or it's just going to keep, you keep making excuses. Well, I had this to do. I had my family, my kids, it's like, hold on a minute. That has nothing to do with whether or not you made a sales call today or not. That's not it. Yep. You're not prioritizing it, right? And so we have to look at the emotions that are attached to the numbers. I always say that the numbers are the numbers. They actually mean nothing. We're the ones that add the meaning.
Yep.
So when we can own that and be like, what am I making this mean? Versus like, stop making it mean anything and just look at the data and do something to change the data. And, and that's how I approach the number conversation. And I always, speak to, it's so funny to watch. I'm guilty of it too. I mean, especially when you go into comparison mode, but you're out there looking at everybody. It's like, oh yeah, they've made millions. And I'm always like, yeah, I'm curious what they're profiting.
Right.
Like you can make $1 million and spend $2 million and be bankrupt. Yeah. I made 300 grand, which is pretty damn good in the first business, right? Except of all the expenses and all of the loans and inventory, everything I had to make that 300 left me at 700 in debt, which means I was negative 400,000 on my balance sheet. So it's just this transparency that I want to see from people. It's not just about the million. And that's my goal too, but I will not kill myself trying to make $1 million if I have to give up $1 million to do it. Right. Like I want to be smarter about it. And so I do my best to run my business at a 40 to 50% profit. It's not always, if it drops below that, I need to make sure it's very strategic, and there's a good reason why, because I'm a service-based company, right? Now, product retail, totally different story. But then you still have to look at what are you doing to profit enhance, and how are you managing your margins and things like that. And so I think as solo entrepreneurs or just, entrepreneurs in general, we don't do it often enough so that we desensitize ourselves. And then we make meaning of the numbers, and it doesn't serve us. And so we just have to take personal responsibility for what they are. And then we've got to look at how are we going to market ourselves and sell to make the money happen. And that's what I focus on as well, whether it's a sales script or, how to convert higher on your sales calls, and I don't think it's selling. I think it's enrolling people. Right. It's just like, it's a fit or it's not. This is what I got to offer. And yes, I can help you, or nope, you're not a fit for me. And, you just enroll people, you just ask them what they want and be willing to support them through that. And there's a price tag in order to have the result. That's what it comes down to, at least for me. And I think people get really hung up on like, I don't want to be salesy. And it's like, well, then don't be of service. Right. And it's a disservice not to ask for the money. People take action and are more attentive when money's involved. I always say people, if people don't see the value in what you offer, they will not buy free. Yeah. So how many of us have freebies out there and nobody gets them? Like this person doesn't choose the freebie because they don't value that in the moment. And I think the other thing that I always teach, there's a concept that I use called PER. And so people will not buy anything unless they're purring. And that means that it's a priority, it's urgent enough, and they're ready to do so. And I notice one thing people do is they have this language called, whether they're trying to buy something or they hear it from their prospects, is I can't afford it. Yeah. And I just want to knock that word off. I actually took it out of my vocabulary intentionally because I think it attracts, not can't affords. I believe in language makes a difference. And so I stopped using that word because the truth is whatever I was looking at buying and I told somebody, I saw myself do it. And I said, I can't afford it right now. And I was like, that's really not a true statement. If I actually sacrificed or chose to spend less in one bucket, I could afford it, right? I'm not talking about those that are just literally, down and out and have no money or no income coming in. I'm talking about everyday people. How many times have we gotten on a prospect call and they go, and I say the price is $5,000 and they go, oh, I can't afford it. And then they leave next day for Sydney, Australia. Like, it's not a true statement to say you can't afford it. It's simply a statement called, I'm not prioritizing this right now to spend the money. And when we can get our head wrapped around that, that also supports us in supporting them and sticking to our value. And so I do a lot of work on that, because it shifted everything for me to be able to stop buying into the story and just I'm there where they are. I'm not pushy. I'm here when they're ready. But I can't make them ready. They have to see the value. They have to be willing to be committed to what it's going to take to be invested with me personally, or buy whatever it is that my clients are selling. And I'm not willing to, it's kind of like, if you buy into their story, you keep trying to discount yourself. And how many times have we done that and they still don't buy? Because it's not the money. Yeah. It's the her. So yeah. I just gave a really big secret. I don't say that one very often.
Yeah, no, I love it. Love it. Awesome stuff.